Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you my best tips and tools to inspire you to create beautiful home decor on a budget. Today I am here with 6 different pumpkin fall DIYs using mostly items that are available at the Dollar Tree. Some of these are seasonal items, some of them are items that are around year-round, available at your craft store. So with all that being said, let's get crafting. For DIY number 1, we're going to make a set of 3 pumpkins using these wood crates from Dollar Tree, some stems and leaves, and some paint. So we're going to make, like I said, 3 different pumpkins in 3 different sizes. This first big pumpkin is going to use 4 crates. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue them together in pairs on one of the short sides. So this is going to be a tall, skinny pumpkin. Next, I'm going to take 2 more of my crates and I'm going to put glue all around the top edge of one, and then I'm going to attach it to the top edge of the other one. This is going to be our medium-sized pumpkin, and you might want to put something heavy on that just to weigh it down. Then our third pumpkin is just going to be 1 crate. Now coming back to our tall pumpkin, now that these crates are glued together, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put glue on the top edge of 1 pair of crates, and then we're going to glue the other pair of crates on top so that our top edges are facing each other. This is going to give us a tall, hollow box made of the 4 crates. And again, I am going to put something heavy on that. So this is our tallest pumpkin. I am going to paint this one with Waverly chalk paint in the color pumpkin. My smallest pumpkin, which is just 1 crate that we're going to have upside down, I'm going to paint with agave. I am going to be adding, I didn't show this at the beginning, some Dollar Tree craft sticks to cover up those oval holes, the handles on the sides of the crates, just so that you won't see those in the finished product. And here's what I'm talking about. So this is the top of my tall orange pumpkin. Instead of having those 2 holes there, I am going to just trim some pieces of these Dollar Tree craft sticks to glue onto the top and cover up those holes. I'm going to do this on the top of the medium pumpkin, which we haven't seen yet, and also on the sides of our small agave pumpkin that has these same oval shaped holes. So just using wood glue, I'm just going to glue these across, and it took 4.5 of these sticks. You'll be able to see here in a second that I have a skinny piece right there in the middle, one of these craft sticks that I tried to cut as neatly as possible in half. So here we're going to do the same thing on the agave small pumpkin, just using 1 crate, but I'm just going to do 3 pieces across. I guess I could have done up and down, but I was kind of just keeping with the horizontal lines that are on the pumpkin already. So it's okay if you got a little bit of space at the top and the bottom, and we'll do that on both sides. Okay, now we're coming back to our medium-sized pumpkin. This is 2 crates glued together, and you'll see in a moment that I've already glued the craft sticks across the top to cover up the handle holes. I didn't bother doing it on the bottom just so that our pumpkins would stand nice and flat. Anyway, that medium pumpkin I'm painting with ivory. Once all my pumpkins were painted and dried, I did take my little sander and smoothed them out, gave some dimension, a little bit of distressing to the pumpkins with the sander. Next, I'm going to take some of these little wood stems from Dollar Tree. I find these kind of in the floral where the glass gems are, the little bags of rocks. Sometimes you can find these wood stems, and I found them in different sizes. So I'm just going to glue one on the blue pumpkin, and then I'm stacking two of them for the ivory and the orange pumpkins. I decided I wanted to distress these a little bit. This is obviously an optional step. I'm using truffle chalk paint, which is a dark brown, and just very lightly with this chippy brush, giving some streaks to all three of my pumpkins. Next, to give some more farmhouse flair to my crate pumpkins, I am going to tie raffia around the stem. I'm also going to add a couple different ribbons just tied in knots and hanging with the tails on all three of my pumpkins as well. Then for the final step on each of my pumpkins, I'm just going to glue very lightly in one spot a little faux leaf to each of the tops of my pumpkins to finish off the set. And here's our finished set of 3 wood crate pumpkins. I love how these turned out. Of course, if the raffia and ribbon is not your style, you could keep these simple just with some leaves and stems. But these are really fun and not very difficult to make. You can make them whatever color and design you'd like. For DIY number 2, we are going to make some tumbling tower block pumpkins. These are cute mini little pumpkins using tumbling tower blocks, some wood glue, and some paint. So with these brown tumbling tower blocks, I'm going to use 16 of them, and you're going to see here I have 2 that are single. I'm going to have 2 pairs, 2 sets of 3, and then 1 set of 4. The set of 4 is going to be in the middle, and then we're kind of going to build a cube. Now with my unfinished ones, I'm doing twice that much because I'm going to make a taller pumpkin. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I have 2 rows of those because once these sets are dry, we're going to glue the top and bottom sets together. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. And I just keep going back and forth working on the smaller brown pumpkin and the taller natural pumpkin. So here, coming back to the smaller one, I'm just sanding lightly, removing any wood glue that may be seeped through the cracks and getting these nice and smooth. I'm actually going to paint my brown tumbling tower block pieces with ivory, but I'm going to leave it spotty where you can kind of see the dark color coming through. Now, all of my pieces, except for this one that has 4, all the rest of the pieces, I'm just going to paint one face and then all the sides. Okay, the one with 4, I am going to also paint the back because that one's going to be in the middle. The way we're going to glue these together, you're not going to need to paint the back sides of all the other pieces. So just getting that paint on, then coming back to our natural colored blocks for our taller pumpkin. Like I said, now I'm going to glue these top and bottom sets together to make this pumpkin twice as tall as the small brown one. Then coming back to our small pumpkin, I just decided to sand lightly just to kind of blend in the paint a little bit, but of course this is optional. All right, so now we're gonna glue our little pumpkin together. We're gonna put some glue on the back of a set of 3, and we're gonna center that on top of the set of 4. Then we're gonna put glue on the set of 2 and center that right in the middle on top of the set of 3. Now I've seen people stop here, but I did decide to go ahead and do 1 on top of that as well. It does make our pumpkins kind of more of a cube or a square, so it's up to you whether you leave off the 1. Then I'm going to take the other 2 and glue it to the 3, and the other 1 and glue it to the 2. I'm going to let these dry, and then we'll come back and put these 2 pieces together. Now for my tall pumpkin, I decided to paint this one orange. So I'm just going to do kind of a quick messy coat of orange paint on all of these pieces. And again, we'll come in with our sander and just smooth that out a little bit. Also remember, only this piece with 4 wide does it need painting on both sides. So now here I'm going to glue the 3 to the 4, and I'm talking about how wide the piece is. So it's 3 blocks wide. Now the 2 blocks wide on top of the 3. And again, you can stop there if you want your pumpkin to be a little more rounded. Or you can also add the 1 block wide on top of the 2. Then coming to the rest of our pieces again, we'll put 2 on top of 3, and then 1 on top of 2. Again, we'll let those dry, and then we'll put those 2 pieces together like we're doing right here. So I'm standing them up now. I put the piece on the left, attached it to the other side of the set of 4. Now for the stems for these tiny little Jenga block or tumbling tower block pumpkins, I decided to use some of the wood craft cubes from Dollar Tree in the craft section. I'm going to use 2 cubes for each stem. So I'm just painting the sides that aren't going to be glued to something else, and then we're going to glue our 2 cubes together, both sets, and then we'll glue those on top of our little cube pumpkins or our block pumpkins to be the little stems. And the last thing we'll do to these little pumpkins is I'm just going to add 1 small leaf to each one, and then I'm going to tie a jute twine bow around the stem as well. And here's our cute little tumbling tower block pumpkins. These would be a fun, easy project to do with some kids, and they don't take up a lot of space. For DIY number 3, I'm going to take 2 hardcover books from Dollar Tree, some more of those stems and leaves, and we're going to use 2 of these gorgeous pattern stencils from Magnolia. So taking the book that is red, I'm going to put a piece of parchment paper right inside the front cover, and I am going to paint this book cover front cover, back cover, and spine with Waverly's chalk paint in the color pumpkin. Then the book that is blue, same thing with the parchment paper. I'm going to paint this one front, back, and spine with agave. Next, since we're going to be stenciling on the front covers of these books, we are going to sand it lightly to smooth that out and then wipe off any excess dust. We'll do this to both of our books. For the agave book, I am actually going to make this a wide pumpkin. So I'm going to take the fleur-de-lis pattern and I'm going to apply it to the book sideways. I am using Almond Latte. It's kind of a nice, pretty ivory color. And we're just going to use our squeegee to gently spread the chalk paste over the mesh of our stencil and just wait until we peel this stencil off. I love how this pattern turned out on this color book. I think it's so classy and beautiful. Of course, you can use any of our amazing pattern stencils that you'd like. On the orange book, I'm turning it sideways, but I'm using this Mosaic Tiles pattern stencil. So I'm actually going to end up making this a tall pumpkin, but just for the stenciling, we're going to turn it sideways to make it a little easier to apply the stencil. And in the same color, Almond Latte, we're just going to gently use our squeegee to apply the chalk paste over the mesh stencil. I decided to wrap some jute twine around each of my books to kind of keep the books closed. So this one, I'm going to glue it to the back, wrap it a few times, attach it again on the back. Then I'm going to wrap some jute twine around my fingers a few times and just make a jute twine bow to attach to the front of this book. Of course, take or leave any of these ideas. I just want to give you a variety of ways you could decorate these pumpkins. Then we're just going to glue one of the stems on the middle of the spine to finish off that pumpkin. Now with the orange one, like I said, we're going to make this a tall standing pumpkin, but I'm going to attach the jute twine around it a few times in the same way, hot gluing it to the back, both ends of it at the beginning and the end of the twine. Then we will glue our stem to the top of the book right there in the middle of the pages. To finish off these book pumpkins, I am just going to attach a leaf or two or three to the top by the stems. And here's our cute pumpkins made out of books. I would love to know what you guys think of these. I just think they're very different and really, really pretty. If you love budget home decor DIY videos like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and leaving a comment or two. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time, I hope you like what you see and you'll consider hitting that subscribe button, tapping the bell to make sure your notifications are set to all, so YouTube should let you know whenever I go live on my channel or upload a new video. For DIY number 4, we're going to take one of these glass containers from Dollar Tree. There's lots of different options with containers and jars, some lights, and some paint. So I am taking ivory and I'm trying to get as smooth and consistent of a coat of paint as possible. I may have gone a little thick, but that's okay. Once I got all the way around the sides, I'm going to turn it upside down and paint the bottom as well. Then I'm going to come to the little metal lid and give that a couple of coats of ivory paint as well. Once my paint was all dry, I did spray these with clear spray, and then I was looking for a stencil that would fit in this little notched out section here, but I couldn't find one, so instead I decided to, with the pencil first, just write the word thankful, and then I'm tracing over it with a fine tip black paint marker. I also wanted to add one of these gorgeous Harvest Pumpkin rub-on transfers to the other side of the jar. And because it was curved, it did maybe crack in a little bit of places, but I thought it turns out really, really nice. My idea with the lights is to make this kind of a luminary kind of, but you can see kind of the painting. The other thing you could use this little pumpkin jar for would be for some candy or to give some treats to somebody. I did take some truffle brown chalk paint and paint the very top of the lid to be like a little stem for our pumpkin. There's what it looks like with the rub-on. And I just had these lights in my stash, so I just kind of unwound them and then put them loosely inside the jar. So see, you can see the rub-on, but you can also kind of see where the paint is a little bit thicker in places. I'm just going to put one of these little leaves on the top and then make a really tiny simple jute twine bow to also glue onto the stem. And here's our finished jar. Like I said, you can decide whether or not to put lights inside or even decide to paint it a different color. For DIY number 5, I'm actually going to repurpose a coffee can and use one of these napkins from Michaels, as well as some paint, the stems, and the leaves again. Now, I got lucky. This napkin is almost perfectly the size of the coffee can once you cut it in half. So I actually only needed to use one napkin for this entire project. Of course, remember to remove the other layers of your napkin. Now, I did spray paint my can white so that it was matching the background color of the napkin. What I'm going to do is I'm using, you can't see it, but there is a line on the back of the coffee can. I'm just going to apply Mod Podge maybe to about a fourth to a third of the can, spread it out as evenly as I can, and then using that line, I am going to start applying the napkin. I'm going to line it up as best I can on the right side there on that edge. It will hang over the other side a little bit, but that's okay. We will sand that extra off once it's dry. Now, decoupaging with a napkin on a curved surface like this, it's gonna have a little bit of wrinkles, but that's okay. I really like the effect that it gives. So just rub very gently, making sure it's attaching to your can. You don't want to rip any holes. Once you had that first section of Mod Podge covered with napkin, then go ahead and do a little bit more. This 1/2 sheet of the napkin is going to go most of the way around the can. So once I got to the end of this piece of napkin, I am going to put some extra Mod Podge underneath and also on top to seal that down. I'm not going to show you where I'm going to take another small piece of the napkin to fill in the rest. But once our napkin is dry, I am going to use my sander and go around. One thing I didn't mention is I'm not using the lid that was on the coffee can. I decided to just turn my coffee can upside down. So now here, the bottom of the can is going to be the top of our pumpkin. I'm putting some more Mod Podge, and the last little piece of my one napkin that I used, I'm going to center it on the top here and press it down as best I can. I will end up kind of gently ripping around the edges, you can see there, and you could leave it like that, but I decided I wanted to add some rope here to the top, just another extra idea to give another texture in here for our pumpkin. So just a piece of nautical rope, gluing it around that outside edge of the can, and then make sure you have some extra glue there where the two pieces are going to meet each other. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to glue a couple more of these stem pieces to the center to be the stem for our pumpkin, and then we'll add a leaf or two. And here's our finished coffee can pumpkin. I love this napkin from Michaels, and I love that this is a low cost craft that you could do, especially if you drink a lot of coffee. This is a regular size coffee can. For DIY number 6, I'm going to take 3 different pumpkin shelf sitters from Dollar Tree and just give them a makeover with some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. So this one has like a raised cardboard word sweet. We're just going to heat up that glue and just get that off. And then when I started to peel this paper off, the front is kind of plasticky, and I liked that it left that white paper on the back. Now, I don't know if I'm going to sell these pumpkins in my craft show, but I like to go ahead and finish the back sides just in case. So I'm going to get the rest of that off, and that white is going to be the back side. So then we're going to take the label off of the back, and on the front where we had that white paper, rather than painting it white, I'm just going to put some Mod Podge over that paper that was there and seal that in. So it's kind of like I painted it, but I painted it clear over the white paper. Our smallest pumpkin is one of these that I've used already once this season. I'm going to remove the tacks, and I'm going to remove the little leather strip there. I'm going to remove the label off of the back and go ahead and give that a coat of white paint so that all 3 of our pumpkins will end up just being plain white on the back. Here's the largest one. Now this was from Dollar Tree Plus. This was $3, which surprises me because it is very big and heavy. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't $5. I'm going to take the leaves and the bow off, and I'm also going to use this tiny screwdriver to remove this metal piece from the front, sanding out where those holes were. And again, we're going to flip it over to the back, give it a nice finished white background with some chalk paint. Now this is the part where you can totally get creative. I'm going to use this pumpkin and sunflowers paper on this middle-sized pumpkin. I am just putting the pumpkin down on the back of the paper. We're just going to trace around the pumpkin, and then I'm going to cut it out. Now the large pumpkin, that white part at the bottom sticks out more, so I'm going to do 2 papers on this one. I'm going to do this fun harvest plaid on the top part that says gather, and then I'm going to do this fun floral in these fall colors on the bottom portion. I love that these different patterns have the same colors, so I am just going to put them together. Again, tracing and cutting out the shape. And now we're just going to use our Mod Podge, spread it out evenly over the area we're covering with the paper, spritz a little bit of water on the paper, and smooth it down onto the Mod Podge to let it dry. And we're going to do the same steps with our smallest pumpkin using this wood looking shiplap paper. Now I had this wood grateful piece in my stash from Hobby Lobby. This is in their fall table decor. I'm going to paint it white and we're going to end up attaching this to one of our pumpkins. And coming back now to Mod Podge, that medium pumpkin with the pumpkin and sunflower paper from Hobby Lobby. As you've seen me do before, once our paper is dried, I'm going to take my little sander around the edges and remove any of the excess scrapbook paper. On this little brown shiplap one, because I'm going to put that white grateful word on here, I decided to sand the edges a little bit more to get a white border around our pumpkin. Using my Tim Holtz Distress Ink and Walnut Stain, I'm going to go around my medium pumpkin and my large pumpkin just to give it some dimension and some shading. These are the metal leaves that came off the largest pumpkin. I'm just going to paint them with moss just to make them match now the colors of the scrapbook paper. So here's that white wood word that we painted with grateful. We're going to glue this right onto the center of our smallest pumpkin. I did leave the sides orange, which I think is kind of fun. And I'm going to take some jute twine and I'm going to wrap it around the stem of the pumpkin. I'm going to do this with all three of the pumpkins. I will say it's a little tricky when you get up to the top. You can see I have some glue there and I'm just gently kind of coiling the jute twine around until we get that entire thing covered. So if you don't want to mess with that, you can always just paint your stems brown or even just leave them with the scrapbook paper. Now with this one, I was kind of inspired by the sunflower in the paper and I decided I was going to glue a couple leaves and a faux sunflower to the front of this pumpkin. And coming back to our $3 pumpkin, I'm going to glue those metal leaves right where they were, but now they're painted green. And then I'm going to take one of my ribbons and just make a simple bow to glue on top of that. It was a kind of a burlap ribbon bow to begin with. Just cut those little tails, and I love how different yet coordinated in colors these three pumpkins are. Again, another project that doesn't cost a lot of money, and I hope you guys liked it. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know in the comments which of these pumpkin decor DIYs was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.